Hello and welcome to the Offsite Construction Series, OffsiteDirt.com construction news. My name is Audrey Grabesic. I am the owner of Modular Site. We are a modular consulting firm for residential and commercial projects. We also have a dedicated factory line. Today brings us to our modular factory owners, an in-depth discussion with 4 different owners from Modern Mod, BestGen, Bmarko and Fading West. My host with me, or co-host I should say, is Scott Hickens. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Audrey. Thanks for having me, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Super excited to get these 4 representatives of superstar modular factories from across the country here to talk to us today. So without further ado, we're going to introduce the members of our panel today. Our panelists are Anthony Contoris, Chief Executive Officer at Bmarko Structures, Charlie Chupp, Chief Executive Officer of Fading West Development, Michael Heitzman, President of Development of BestGen Modular, and David Papin, Principal of Modern Mod. And now that you got to see those wonderful faces, we're going to pass it off to each of them to introduce their company and tell you a little bit about what they do before we go into the questions. So we'll start with David of Modern Mod.
Good morning. I'm David Papin. I'm with Modern Mod. We have a 300,000 square foot facility in Neosho, Missouri. It's actually our plant 2, and we're expanding back into our first plant to a second facility of 146,000 square feet. We are very probably different than most of your modular factories in that we don't have a sales department. We don't have a marketing department. We actually build wholesale for brands, and we build wholesale for different developers, but mostly we build for a brand as a white label. We build it, supervise their build, and put their name on it and build it to their brand standard. So whether it's a hotel or an ice cream parlor, it doesn't matter. We build it and to what they want to build, where they want to build it, and how they want it built. And so, and then we modularly move it to where it's going. And so this is a project that we're actually working on with Modular Site in Georgetown, Texas. It's called Finley Oaks, and it's a 29 unit multifamily townhome or condos, I think is what it's considered. So we just again, we build it a brand standard. We work with them. They tell us what they want to do and how they want to do it, and that's how we guide our day. So.
Cool. Thank you, David. And now we have Charlie, who will introduce Fading West for us.
Good morning, everybody. Fading West really started with the mission of creating attainable housing in Colorado. I'm not a developer. I'm not a general contractor. I actually have a background in manufacturing, and kind of stumbled into this need for attainable housing here in the Rockies. We're located in Buena Vista, right in the kind of dead center of the state. And we just saw this huge need for people who really create these towns and create thriving communities. They just couldn't find housing anywhere in the towns that they worked in. So we started Fading West as to try to figure out attainable housing. And really that started with working with factories in Nebraska and trying to figure out how to integrate development with construction, with offsite modular components, and bringing that all in as a high quality, architecturally interesting design, but still attainable for someone making between 80 and 150% of the area's median income. So that's kind of our mission statement. And this factory, we decided about 2 years ago to jump into building our own factory for a lot of different reasons. One, we were shipping 500 miles to get into the state and just pretty inefficient. So this factory is going to be about 110,000 square feet. We are 96 days from production start. We've been working on it for about a year now. And we think this factory will put out between million to 1.2 million square feet of housing a year. We were really aiming at a very, very efficient, very standardized product line, still flexible, but very modular Lego block type components. And yeah, so this is who we are, and super excited. About half of our production will go to our own developments. This is our first development here in Buena Vista. It's the farm. It actually was kind of testing this idea of how to create attainable housing, but using offsite production. And this will be sold out, 218 units will be sold out in about 5 years. So it's just massive need in the Rockies, and this is how we're trying to bring some affordability to the state.
And it is very needed. Thank you, Charlie, and welcome to the panel. And now we will have Michael tell us a little bit about BestGen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to hear what these other guys have going on, and tell you a little bit about us. So BestGen, the company itself, started with the idea of solving the construction market industry by internalizing as much as we can and within our own company to do our own development stuff. Real estate development's kind of been a passion of Brandon, the founder of BestGen, for 25 years. About 2014, he started to incorporate as much as he can, doing his own real estate development and incorporating as much of the the different assets to include in the process. So we incorporated our own architecture firm, our own construction company, our own modular factory, our own project management, everything to help facilitate our own development. We also do third-party work for other companies where we just build the modular factories. We do just the design, we consult, we do construction. And it's really been an incredible experience over the last few years, diving into modular and seeing the capabilities of it, what you can do with it, and how you can change the approach from the construction industry side. So there's a project we did over in Colorado. It's a multi-family townhouse product. I think there were, I want to say, around 60 units there that we built in our factory in Watertown, South Dakota. We have a second smaller factory in Madison, South Dakota, that builds higher end residential. But this product was designed by a firm in Colorado and built and sent out there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful product. This project is really what got me into the modular industry. This is an assisted living project I designed and built in Kansas City for a previous company. The product you see here is about 95% modular. The only thing that's not is the two stair towers on the two ends of the building you can't see in this picture. But I like to show this picture because those corner boxes came from the factory. All those windows were installed, shipped, and not a single piece of glass broke. And building this product really showed the capabilities of modular construction. When you approach it, you have a good factory that knows what they're doing, and you have a good team behind you. It was really just a fun kind of entry into the modular world. The next one is or is this the last one, Scott?
Yeah, that was the last one.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's it. So BestGen is really just a full service company that can do all or parts of your project, whatever the need is.
Thank you for that, Michael. And last but not least, we'll have Anthony actually share a little bit about Bmarko himself.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And would you mind, Scott, if I kept it this way for a minute before I jumped into the presentation? Yeah. So it's not too confusing. Absolutely. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm excited. Bmarko structures, I guess maybe a little different from the stories we heard so far. We started in 2014. The only thing we knew at the time, there was a lot of things that we didn't know. One thing we knew is that construction kind of sucked. And the way we knew that is because the person that it was me and Boris who started the company, and Boris built his own soccer stadium in 2005 or so in Atlanta, and then he used precast double T. And so, you know, they broke ground February. They played the first game, soccer game, July. So he's like, oh my God, this is like amazing. This offsite construction and prefabrication is the future, you know. Then what really put the nail in the coffin is when he built his own home in 2012. And so it's like, okay, you know, we need to change this. So that's literally the only thing we knew. We started with shipping containers, shipping container modifications in 2014. Didn't have a lot of money, bootstrapped the company. 2 years later, we get profitable. We start doing the more fun stuff, doing steel modular for ourselves. We kept shipping container modifications because we were pretty good at it and we liked it. So then we go into steel modular for industrial products, not so much commercial on the steel front. And then finally in 2018, we ran into Marriott in one of the World of Modular events, and they started talking about this wood modular thing, which we had no idea what it was. And they're like this and that, and we're like, okay, but steel is better. But that was kind of like I bias, and then we kind of challenged our bias, and we started looking into wood, you know, the commercial wood modular product that pretty much everybody else is talking about today. And we're shocked at how strong it is. And then we kept kind of chirping in, and we were so impressed at just how phenomenally tough that product is. And people were saying, yeah, if it falls off the truck, it's going to be intact. And we're like, yeah, you're lying. And then the second person said it, the third person said it, the fourth person said, Anthony, I'm not lying because it happened to me. And I'm like, okay, like we need to look into the wood modular product anyway. And so here we are. We started our second factory. First factory does shipping container modifications and steel modular buildings. And the second factory, which we just started in Greenville, South Carolina, builds a commercial wood modular product. So let me dive into the presentation real fast. I won't stay too long on the presentation. And if I could get a heads up that it's showing correctly. Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Thank you. And so, you know, a little bit of what I'm going to be talking about is going to be, I guess, DFMA, and a lot of the questions are kind of that might be coming up have to do with that. So you can kind of see how we approach projects, and we kind of fully model every project in 3D. We use Revit. And we get our shop drawings from that, so that's very important to us. This is a shot from our factory. You can see a ceiling assembly, which you can notice here is kind of the amount of prefabrication that we do to the prefabrication, which is modular construction. So that's what we believe in, and so you can kind of see how Revit and design really aids that. So for example, the ceiling panel that you see here. You can see kind of a silver part on the ceiling rim. So that's a 2x8 ceiling rim that we press together, and we feed the ceiling build table with that length of a rim. So that's prefabricated. The holes that are used to lift that ceiling panel are pre-done on the table before that piece is fed to the ceiling table. And then you can kind of see the ceiling drywall is mudded. And you can see those pipes. Those pipes are fire sprinkler pipes, and we pre-test the whole fire sprinkler system before we kind of volumetrize the box in our factory. So prefabrication is very important to us even inside our factory. And this is just some shots. The way that this factory started is a 190 apartment unit project in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And that kind of gave birth to our Greenville, South Carolina factory. And here you can kind of see that project, and you can see on the whole bottom is just the first building out of 21, and you can see kind of the exterior, the shrink wrap, and then the crane set, of course. And then here you can, and it's my background actually, this top right picture. It's Bmarko believes in doing just as much as possible in the factory, and that means the LVT. That means the windows, the drywall, the paint, the trim, the baseboard, the shoe mold, the countertops, the sink. So that's what we believe in. And those are the projects that we want to undertake. And here you can kind of see again that same project in Spartanburg. And I'll kick the share out, and I'll close by saying I want to say a bunch of things, but maybe I'll say it later because I can't think of what I want to say.
Oh my gosh, that
Exactly.
was
We
so
got-
entertaining. Thank you. That was awesome, Anthony. That was really great. You know, the most wonderful thing about all of the people that are on our panel is they're really great humans. And, you know, in a crazy business that we live in crazy construction and now offsite construction and learning all these forms, you can see how beautiful construction can be, how beautiful these buildings can be, how amazingly warm these individuals are, and knowing who they are. And I'm sure they probably don't want me to tell you how great they are, but anyway, at least you can see it through their personalities. And Michael, I think it was really important in your rendering that you had the Colorado moose in there, because then I was like, okay, I know I'm in Colorado.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was a fun product.
Very nice. I love that. So we're going to jump into our questions. We're going to ask questions for the next 20, 30 minutes, and then we're going to leave probably about 10 minutes for question and answer for all of the people that are on this Zoom call today. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to give it to Charlie first. Charlie, why were you interested in building your own factory?
Yeah, Anthony kind of said a lot of the great things. I had built a house myself out in Colorado, and it was a disaster. Basically, my job was begging subcontractors to show up every day. No quotes, no bidding it out, just please, someone come and build my house. And it was incredible. It was an incredible experience, incredibly expensive, very slow, very frustrating. And so as I got into development, I was like, there's no way you can create attainable housing by doing this site built work. So we started with this idea of creating attainable housing. We started using factories in Nebraska, and just coming from a background of manufacturing, specifically Toyota production systems and lean, there's just so much waste, just massive waste throughout this system. And we really think about the entire value stream from, you know, entitlements to land planning to all the infrastructure work, to how to create communities and how do you build relationships within our developments. And then how do you integrate offsite with all of the construction activities that happen? And then how do you get people into a house that they love living in? And so as we looked at it and we kind of stumbled into this massive demand, and specifically in Colorado, and it's really across the United States, but we got interested in it because we thought we could bring all of that to Colorado and do it differently and integrate it across the entire value stream, and super excited about being able to control all aspects of that, from cost and architecture and livability and quality and all those fun things.
Love it. Michael, we asked you the same question. Why were you interested in building your own factory?
A lot of the same reasons, you know, Charlie just talked about. You know, when you're in the construction industry and you build a commercial or a residential product, and you see all the issues, all the things that are just such time suckers that just take so much time and cause such a headache. Being able to minimize that and control so much ahead of time, it was great. The experience I had even with modular the first time, I was approaching it from an architect standpoint, and I saw, even at that standpoint, by building a modular product and a site built product at the same time, the disconnect and communication between the two that I saw that you could actually solve within the modular industry and actually create that much more synergy with it. It really just spearheaded that whole concept and idea to really dive deep and go all in and figure out, okay, if we're going to do modular, let's figure out the best way to do it across the board. So not just from the factory building construction standpoint, but the site built, the design, the development, the financing, all the way through. And so that's where we started. And if a project's done right and you have the right people on the team, it's just a beautiful process, and it's really cool to watch.
I so agree with you. David, why were you interested? I think this is like your third factory you've built, correct?
I, I'm going to show my age here. Uh, so I've been interested in owning my own factory ever since I saw U.S. Steel work on Disney World in the 70s. They had it down then, way long before we got the rights to do it. And I just got honestly working in the commercial world with Hilton and different companies and building hotels as a GC and hotels as a commercial builder and different projects. I got really sick of being told no. I got really sick of being dealing with the time limits, so slow, limited build seasons and this and that and the other. And I realized that at the same time that you would typically put up an infrastructure for a building, you could be building that same building in a controlled environment. And I've always been kind of a solutions guy. And so we took it to multiple different layers of things that we provide for our brands and for our customers, so that we can service their needs exactly to what they'd been told no for, and why they couldn't do it, and how they couldn't save money or save time. And we do a products that not a lot of people in the industry do. And so it was mainly to be a solutions guy. I wanted to solve the problems for myself, and it turned out that those same problems that I was having, a lot of other people had as well. So building my own factory was just a means to an end.
I love it, David. That was awesome. And Anthony, we're going to have you close it out. We kind of heard a little bit of your background, but if there is any other insight as to how things are expanding for you, I know this is your second factory going from steel now into wood. I love where your direction's going.
Yeah, thank you. And really, I don't know if I mentioned that, but we were sitting down and we're like, okay, we want to first prove the demand of the market before we go and spend a lot of money on the factory. Charlie's is working on his own development as well, which is going to be part of what he's going to be building. And at the time, well, we didn't have that. So essentially we were looking for about a year for a project. And then we actually got the contract first and signed it, and then it got into the factory. And of course that was very difficult to do, but we did it. But yeah, so we're in the midst of building this one project, and we're working on kind of future projects to move forward from there. But yeah, it doesn't. Interesting fact, since you asked me, is a steel modular factory, and especially the way we're running the one in Atlanta that we have, is very, very different from a wood modular factory. And I guess you already have a question about that, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. But wait, I'm doing a really good job if you didn't want people to know that you gave us the questions and
oh,
we were
thanks
prepared.
for sneaking that in. Yeah, we're going to ask that next.
So I'm sorry, I'll answer this question. I have a feeling you'll ask the other question. I guess why were we interested in building our own factory? I'm afraid the answer to that question would differ depending on when you asked us. When we started the company, we could just very clearly see that as kind of the way to affect and change the construction industry is to just go into offsite ourselves and be a manufacturer. That by no means is that the only way to kind of change the way construction is done. That's the one way that we saw. Now, in the past couple of months and maybe a year, I would say, we are kind of talking a lot about our own development. So that's a whole different answer. And that answer would resemble Michael's and Charlie's answer a lot. So I wouldn't bore you with it. But yeah, along the years, that kind of the answer to that question has evolved. But it's always been a yes, we're interested.
Well, thank you for all those answers, gentlemen. So I'll be hopping in to ask you the second question. as we get into the talk about manufacturing, design, and plant processes for modular construction. So obviously, when we're running homes through factories, they need to be designed in a way where they can be built in a factory. Anthony mentioned design for manufacture and assembly before. But we'll start with you, Michael. What trends do you see in manufacturing, design, and plant processes for modular construction?
Oh man. Well, it's, I think a big one that we really stepped into ourselves is really when you talk about the design. I ran into this myself when I first got into the industry. I didn't know, being the architect, I didn't know how to design a modular product. It sounds simple. You just line up some walls and go, but there's a lot more to it than that. So I think one of the big trends is the designers, the architects, the factories, the GCs are going to start to establish and have better communication early on, to talk about the process and the project as a whole. So, Anthony mentioned he wants to build as much as possible in the box as he's building this thing, because the more you can do in the factory, the more time it saves you on site. And I think you'll see manufacturers saying, okay, well, this is how we used to build, but now we want to build what makes sense for the project. Do we want to incorporate parapets that tilt up? Do we want to panelize some of the walls versus modularize all of it? Or can we, do different things above and beyond what we used to do? So instead of saying, okay, this is my box, owner, contractor, architect, you take this and finish the project, it's going to be, well, okay, here's my box, but here's your project. Let's see what I can do to adjust this or build it or design it differently to better fit the process. I think that's a big piece that's I think factories are starting to open their process up to, and I think more designers are getting to know factories early on to really think about that design concept. The other piece I think is incorporating the steel. I know metal prices are up like crazy and wood prices are starting to come back down. We'll see how far they go. But being able to utilize both, we're getting ready to start a plant down in the Southwest, and that plant will produce both metal and wood modular process or projects as well. So incorporating the two both in the same box and in separate boxes, I think will be a huge piece. Well, and just thinking what all you can do with a box. You mentioned, Audrey, there people think of modular as these square boxes that it's there's no aesthetic to it, no design to it. But as you've seen with several of the projects everyone's presented, there's a beauty to them, and you can, if you really dig into it, you can do a lot with modular construction.
Indeed you can, and we're trying to break that stereotype that it just has to be a boring, simple box, and we're doing that by having you gentlemen discuss this today. So I'll pass it off second to Anthony. You mentioned DFMA. Do you want to maybe educate us on some of those processes and buzzwords that you're seeing in modular?
Yeah, so if I didn't mention what it stands for, I'm sorry. So DFMA, Design for Manufacturing. And I think that I want to take a moment and talk about not just the good, but maybe the bad. And maybe I'm going to get some heat on this after that. I'm glad we only shared LinkedIn profiles. But a plant is constrained, and you set up a plant, right? And you optimize a plant that we're talking about in this question, plant processes, and you really need to optimize it to what you're building. Okay. And essentially, your manufacturing needs to tie to your design, and a plant can't produce everything, right? And so essentially, by really honing in on what you're producing and what you're making, and having a heads up and maybe just a continuous flow of that same product, you can then optimize your supply chain. You can optimize your DFMA. When I talk about, we do Revit, and we do a 3D design for our shop drawings, and we model every single stud. We model the J boxes, the light switches, the slope on the plumbing pipe. Now, you don't really, it's not as efficient to do that if you're building different product over and over again, right? So if you're single family, then it does make sense to do that if you're only building one home that way, and then you spend all these engineering hours on that and design hours. And so I think in the context of commercial modular construction, we believe, back to what you asked, Scott, that improvement in manufacturing will be caused from aided by from design for manufacturing, which is really building and modeling exactly what you're going to build, and using BIM and Revit, and also something else that I wouldn't really want to answer that in terms of what trends do I see, but maybe what we're doing. I guess that's what I see mostly because I work there full time. We're integrating a lot of software, and a lot of people talk about robotics. And Audrey and Scott, you can stop me. I'm almost done if I take too long. But a lot of people just focus so much on like one thing, robotics, And what are you using that for? Okay, wall framing, it's like that's like what percentage of the total scope of everything we do as a factory is that? Is that like 1%? Is that 2%? It's not more, right? I mean, what about logistics? What about the infrastructure and the system behind that? What about inventory, right? Real-time inventory. What about all of these things that no one really, cost expense allocation, not all factories out there know exactly how much money they're spending per each module that rolls off the line. So everybody's so hot on those keywords, well, like robots. You got to, they call it like, hey, I want you to build this, but only if you have robots. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. So anyway, I think those are the trends. That those are the things that I think are happening right now, and yeah. It's much more than just robotics or just a buzzword, DFMA, all for a purpose.
Absolutely. Designing a home in a way where you actually know how it's going to be built. What a concept, right? So that's what we're bringing. Let's go with David. What trends do you see in manufacturing, design, and plant processes for modular?
Guys, I've been waiting for this moment for 30 years. And even though they're coming to us now out of desperation, they're coming to us. And so I'm very happy to be here. We've because of the trailer house industry, we've been the odd guys out in this field for a long time. And because, quite frankly, the lack of quality in product and production, the lack of trying to comes from trying to make a trailer house be everybody's house and stacking them and doing everything you can to make a square peg fit around a hole. But the cool thing is that now we're getting architects and engineers, and we're getting designers bringing plans to us, and we're saying we're able to say, yes, we can do this, and yes, we can do it. And the question is when a brand brings me something like this, can we do it? Is how productive is it going to be? Is it going to save that client money? How much repetition are you going to have in your product line? And so how much more cost effective can it be after you duplicate it? And so what we're seeing now is the young architects, the young engineers that have come up and hitting, realizing that they can actually make a profit from their designs. They can actually control that process of construction management and actually be the retail dealer for their very own product, as opposed to having a GC man that same product. And so it's great for architects, it's great for engineers, because they're able to now steer a ship that they before weren't able to steer. They had, if they wanted to design something cool, it had to be stick built, or it had to be custom. You had to get in that field. And so now everybody's thinking outside the box, but still staying in the box. And so it's really nice. A biggest part, I would say, Audrey will verify this, but I would say probably 70% of our business for the last 2 years has been in converting plans for the hotel industry from stick-built prototypes to modular prototypes. And that goes from the commercial world, from multifamily to clear down to the high-end custom homes. I'd say we have a whole design team at our place here, and we have it spread out over multiple states and multiple partners. But what we're doing now more than anything is being a service that converts these plans for these hotels. We do all for Radisson, for Wyndham, for Hilton. We get lots and lots of developers and hoteliers plans, and we convert them. We show them how to, we do value engineering. We show them how to save money, how to get the process done, and how to actually get a project done that's within budget and within controls of a time frame. Because everything today is in the building world. It's not so much can you do it. It's how quickly can you do it, and how much interest can you save on the construction loan, getting from the construction loan to perm financing. And that's a big thing. And that's what banks are scared of. So the banks are coming to us, architects are coming to us. And so it's a nice time to be in this business, that we can enjoy everybody coming to us now, as opposed to everybody walking away from us before.
Thank you, David. And now Charlie, with Fading West Mad Dash to have your factory open up here soon. What trends are you seeing in manufacturer design and plant processes?
You know, across the industry, you see different people hitting different niches of this massive crisis in construction. I think Anthony said it, construction kind of sucks. And I'm just quoting Anthony. So if you're in construction, be mad at him. But it does feel like each of these segments of the market need solutions. You know, the piece that Fading West is really focused on is the attainable entry-level housing that's still, you know, high quality and architecturally interesting. And we think about all of those together. And so what, you know, the trends that we're seeing are, when you go off-site, is the DFMA, design for manufacturability, but we talk a lot about radical reduction of site work. Is how do we eliminate everything that happens at the site? Because that's, I don't know what the percentage is, but it is at least twice as expensive to do something at the site as it is to do it in the factory. So we look at bringing all of those things in-house. We look at pretty radical standardization within our componentry, but then doing it in a way that still adds and allows flexibility for what the market is demanding. And so how do you create that standardization, but then also create that with flexibility as well? Lots of trends that we're seeing is, you know, BIM, Revit, using software to eliminate a lot of these wastes that you see in the design. You see a lot of this automation thing too is trendy with a lot of different factories. I don't believe in automation until the system is designed well and then it's working, and then you can use automation to speed that process, but it's never a silver bullet. And I think you see a lot of people betting on that, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, lots of different trends. I also just sent out in the chat the McKinsey report that came out last summer. I don't know if all of y'all are familiar with that, but really they talk a ton about this idea of the entire value stream needing to be analyzed from the beginning of project and development all the way through customers moving in. And they do a great job of quantifying these huge segments of the value stream and how that needs to change and how that needs to be improved, and kind of what are the long-term trends in construction that's forcing builders and developers to look off-site, because they're losing people, they're losing trades, and it's just getting more and more expensive. Materials are getting more expensive. You can always optimize material usage in a factory way better than you can in a remote location. So a lot of these trends, I think, are really throughout the industry, but they're driving this need for a new solution. And it's a great place to be. And David said it well, it's a good time to be providing an option for people who are really struggling to get their projects done.
That's awesome, Charlie. Thank you so much. We're going to try to answer this one quickly because I do want to leave a few minutes for questions and answers at the end. How is your factory working towards sustainability in your builds and building practices? We're going to open up with you, David, first.
Okay, so we started out with a plan to work towards sustainability, and so we started out with I literally, when I started this plan, I wanted to do every single thing different than I wanted to take every single hiccup and headache that I had in every plant before, and I wanted to get away from that. That's why I don't have a sales department. That's why I don't have marketing. That's what. And so we could then focus on R&D. We can focus on all the things that everybody told me no for 1,000 times. We have the only rail-ready product. We can ship units by rail. We can ship units and with breakaway floors in them to set slab on grade. We have a solution for that. We can top pick our units. We can literally do things that everybody told me no, can't be done, won't do it, they won't sign off on it. We build a better, stronger, more effective product now than I ever have been allowed to. And I say allowed to because it's true. We weren't allowed to do so many things because of the stranglehold that this industry had on it before. And letting the cat out of the bag, we're ahead of everybody on a lot of different things here in America, but the modular world is 20 years behind. And so you go to Vietnam, Thailand, all these places are way advanced of what we are. And so now we're catching up. And so it's nice to see. As far as sustainability, we are able to capture things that normally you would throw away in the field and keep and use. And the little bits of sheetrock that you can use for fire blocking, the things that normally would hit the trash bin, we're able to keep and effectively service our clients by not having to spend that same money twice. So we're working for some of the things that Anthony talked about. Accountability and talking about how to maximize the production of the build, being able to tell me why that on the floor that Joe can do this task faster than Bill can. So we've gone well past the old paper and clipboard travelers. We actually track the guys, what they're doing, every single piece of material that goes into that build. If we carry one board to it, it gets logged in, and so that we can do the analytics. We can tell who's doing a better job, who's better suited for that particular place and station in the factory. So those are the things that we're trying to get away from. The old school factory rules and regulations and use iPads and bring things to this 20 years ago. Yes,
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Anthony, what sustainable options are you using in your builds or building processes or practices?
For the record, Audrey, I was prepared to answer this one fast to compensate for all my long answers, but then you jumped in, you said go fast, so I'm going to go double fast. So and in order to do that, I'm going to give an example. So I think to answer this question, sustainability, it has to do with standardization, like Charlie and everybody else talked about. And back to what I had said earlier, that might be one of the disadvantages, that you need to be very standardized, but it's true. And so when we talk about standardization being necessary to achieve sustainability, I'll give you one example, and then I'm going to pass the baton over. Our ceiling drywall. We buy it as a 4-foot wide by 15-foot 3-inch piece of drywall from the manufacturer. So we actually, for the first time that we ever got that first truckload in, you need a truckload to have them cut it to size for you. We were using 4-foot by 12-foot, right? And then it took us about 2 hours to lay that on our ceiling check. And then everybody was mad that the truck wasn't running. So anyway, the truck arrives, and then it took 20 minutes to lay that because we didn't have all these joints. And so, when we're talking about, sustainability, we're talking about knowing what you're building so you can, actually make it more efficient, like very low waste, right? We have zero waste on that 4 foot by 15 3 piece of drywall. And so that's kind of the mentality that you need to use to achieve sustainability in a modular plant. That's my answer.
I love it. That's so great. And I love that, you keep evolving in your factory, you keep evolving in your systems, you keep trying new things and using things that service you quickly, which is so awesome. Charlie, let's throw it over to you.
I would echo exactly what those guys said. We're able to think about the entire system, and we can control our designs, and we can get standardization based on our materials, how they're coming in, the sheet sizes, the production and efficiency of our systems in the factory. So there's working within a factory gives you just every option of looking at waste and eliminating it. It's just a much more controlled environment. So I echo what everybody said.
Awesome. Michael, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'll echo the same thing everybody just said. So utilizing software, updated software, Anthony mentioned early on, Revit, and being able to identify, I have these, 4 pieces of blocking that I can cut out of a 2x8 stud versus, 2x16 or whatever makes sense. But yeah, echoing the same thing everybody just said.
I love it. And I love that you guys are continuing to evolve in your process, and we're looking at things a little bit differently. Really quick, we're going to have to answer it in like a couple of sentences, but is it possible to have single family and commercial projects in your factory, being able to have 2 lanes or 3 lanes or 4 lanes, and able to do both projects, because they're both specifically different, right? There's a lot of same traits to them, but again, different plant wise to run them. Anthony, are you able to do both single family and commercial in your factories?
I'll take a hard stance just to make it interesting so people disagree with me. I'll say no. Sure, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can stand up now, dance around, you can do whatever you want, but commercial projects are different than single family. And actually, I'm really looking forward to David's answer, because I think he might be doing that. All my experience leads me to say no, but I would be curious to learn and see if I'm missing anything.
David, why don't you take that?
Well, the answer is yes, if you have Audrey as a client, because you have no choice. But but yeah, I used to be able to say no and would adamantly agree. I could tell you that it's something that needs to happen in a dedicated line for single family. So if you can divide your plant, if you have the blessing and the benefit of the square footage to be able to do that, then you can effectively pull that off. My best employee is the guy that works at Subway. If he can read that deal that says, put 3 pieces of meat here and 2 pieces of cheese and 1 slice of mayonnaise, I can teach him how to build a house. And so that's what we do. We break it down at the station, and that all comes from the Revit and all the different tools that we have at our disposal now that we haven't had before. So yes, it's possible. I would definitely never do it in the same line, but in the same building, yeah, absolutely.
Charlie, how about you?
Then you're cheating. I'll just say that, David.
The way we're looking at it is we're really focusing on residential and smaller footprint timber frame apartments. And so we're not getting into hotels. We're still going to do IBC through the same line, but really limiting the apartment. It does create a lot of headaches. Mostly there are different systems and different materials and different codes, obviously. The biggest thing for us is it clogs our single line for just too long. So that's a big challenge. But I think it's possible if you constrain what you're doing on the commercial side to a pretty easy niche in that market.
Well, I love that you all know what your market is, and I love that you all know what your capacities are. Michael, you have your factory in South Dakota. Now you're looking at the Southwest to build the next one. What's your plan for that? Are you going to be able to do both?
We are looking at doing both, but we will have a separate line that kind of specializes in the one-off single family or the smaller ADU type processes. Otherwise, these guys mentioned you got to have, a lot of product going through there. We're doing it in our current factory, but we have 18 single family houses that are very similar. And so we'll push those through. Each house has 3 different boxes, and we're pushing those through quickly. And those are taking up, a schedule, and then we'll have the next commercial project follow behind that. So, but doing a one-off is very, very difficult and can screw up your schedule.
Thank you.
So we have one last question. We'll ask really quick here, and then we have one audience question to get to as well. So this final question is, we're taking it out of the factory now and going to the site. So how do you feel construction is going to evolve for the site work, set and stitch, and general contractor roles as we move more into modular? And Charlie, we'll start with you.
I think the integration between the general contractor and the factory is probably the biggest opportunity to improve the success of these projects. It's why we have a general contracting division, and why we have a factory, and why we're the end customer to a lot of our products. And so, how construction is going to evolve on the site, I think, is for the people who are trying to make this a part of their business model. It's how does everything at the site interact with the designs and what is being fabricated. So the contractors' roles, I think that, again, long-term trends, they're going to be struggling for resources and manpower. And we want to help optimize the skills and the resources that they have, so they can do more projects and obviously to create more supply in the market. And that's what we think about a lot.
Nice. Michael, how about you?
I kind of hinted on this earlier, but yeah, thinking about the GC being involved early on with the designer, with the factory. We're building our own 42-plex apartment building here that we've developed, we designed, we built in our factory, and we have our own GC doing it. And we learned a lot from that process on all the different roles and what the needs are, and being able to communicate with your GC procurement guy to your superintendent, and letting them get involved early on in the design and really think through that whole process. I think it's just gonna keep getting stronger and stronger as people dive into this modular world.
David?
Well, I think that we're already seeing a convergence of set crews and GCs. I think it's already begun. I think a lot of people, once they realize that, they watch a few of these sets and they see that our method of construction and the ease of the sets now compared to what it was a lot more specialized at a time. I think these general contractors are realizing that if they don't adapt, if they don't learn to have these set crews within, then they're going to be consumed by the setters that turn into GCs, because that's almost every set company that's worth its weight is also doing GC now. And they're taking the market via the modular industry. And so the big boys have all taken notice. They're stepping up, and the convergence is here. That's where I see the biggest evolution for that question.
And Anthony.
Yeah, and I'll tap into what David said and go actually a little more high level than that. So I have said in the past that before I die, modular is going to be 50% of the market, and I could be wrong, but let's assume for the sake of this argument that I'm right. Essentially, I think that we all need to educate what modular is. It's not something cheap. It's not trailers, right? And the value add that we've been discussing here. And I think that your developers, at least our experience is the developers are more of early adopters than the GCs, because GCs are like, oh, you're going to take all my scope. You're going to take all my scope. So in any case, I think developers are going to be the first ones who are kind of going to adapt, and they really see the value add. And then the faster those GCs kind of adapt to that and say, okay, that's the new reality, right? So it kind of reminds me of COVID, where you're in denial, and then it's like, okay, my world is shattered. Like nothing around me is the same. And it's the fact, like, even if it didn't touch me as much, it's touched everybody I know. And so if modular is successful, I kind of envision GCs kind of looking at each other and saying that. And then kind of like Charlie mentioned, that value add component of modular that not all factories want to do, right? If you're a factory, it's totally different than being a GC on site, right? So much opportunity and value there. And the sooner GCs jump into that and take advantage of it and kind of get past the denial stage, the better it's going to be, not only for them and their books, but it's going to be better for everybody.
Indeed it is. And we just had someone ask in the chat about where to watch this afterwards. Just another note, you can go on OffsiteDirt.com where this will be available. And to close it out here, we're now going to move into the audience questions. We'll just go a few minutes over just to, we had one really good audience question. So gentlemen, whichever one of you this question calls to, feel free to answer. We have a question from Benson, and if that is Ted Benson, sir, we love your content on the construction industry as well. He asked, what are the challenges you faced as an offsite construction manufacturer? Any difficulty in complying with local or state national building regulations or securing projects when competing with conventional construction? And do you have any thoughts on that?
Any one of you guys can jump in.
I can answer that. It's been an education process. It's been something that we've had to actually go to planning and zoning meetings. We've had to go to the building departments. We've had to hold their hand. We've had to walk them through to the point where the light bulb went off and they say, well, this is just as good. This is actually better. And so when they see that you know, that everything from shear to everything all the way down through, we have to build these things that go down the highway. And so not only that, we have to build them, be able to pick up 4 stories in the air over the top of a tree or whatever, over the top of something, and even set upon themselves. You know, we've had to hold the hand of a building inspector that's been sitting in his chair for 35 years going, this is the way we're going to do it. We're not going to do it any other way. And to them realizing it's a lot less work for them to do this process. So I think it's when they come in and they see a better product hit the ground, and with 5 employees that made that happen, as opposed to, you know, their 50 employees that took to do it before, you know, run that construction company. I think that it opens the eyes of those of a lot of people, and it's been a snowball. It's been a fun ride for the last. You know, I expected it to wither up and die during COVID, but we just got bigger and bigger and bigger. It's great.
Thank you. That's a great response to that. Is there any other questions that you're seeing, Scott?
Nope, that was the one we got.
All right, great. So let's put up our closing slide, and thank you, Anthony, Charlie, Michael, and David. I can't thank you enough for your participation today. I think your insight, I think what you're doing is changing our world in construction. I love that we are creating a community where we can have these conversations and educate people. Obviously, all the people that are on the panel today can be reached through LinkedIn. This will be covered on OffsiteDirt.com. I'll also be putting it on our channels through LinkedIn as well. But please keep the conversations going. If you do have projects and you're considering, we have different areas of the country that we can now service and help. We can provide any type of assistance or questions. I'm always available. My name is Audrey Grabesic. I have Scott Hickens here as well. Thank you for joining us today on the Offsite Construction Series.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Have an awesome day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.